intending to carry out the exercise of reviewing of constituencies and wards boundaries as stipulated in the Constitution. 2, elaborate on the criteria the commission. 3, provide details of the protected constituencies and how the Commission will ensure that the boundaries review process does not interfere with the same. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
For giving me this opportunity and to ask this question. And my question is, could the Commission explain why Narok North constituency has not been gazetted as a hardship area despite satisfying the conditions to be disgraded as such? 2, enumerated efforts that have been given instituted to ensure teachers deployed in the constituency benefit from the hardship allowances. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Tula? I think he's not present. We can move to the next order.
Order number 8, the Wildlife Conservation and Management Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 3 of 2023. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Wildlife Conservation and Management Act 2013.
Next order.
Order number 9, the Parliamentary Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 5 of 2023. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Parliamentary Pensions Act and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 10, the Public Service Commission Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 6 of 2023. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Service Commission Act.
Next order.
Order number 11, the Crops Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 8 of 2023. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Crops Act.
Next order.
Order number 12, the National Government Coordination Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2023. First reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the National Government Coordination Act.
Next order.
Order number 13, motion. Development of a policy and funding for junior secondary schools.
I think we had a balance of 2 hours, 50 minutes. So we'll resume debate. I'm informed that Honorable Shakil had a balance of 5 minutes, but he's not here. I think we can proceed. Members who want to contribute, press the intervention button. Okay. Member for Kadiani, Honorable Robert Ngui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, I stand to support this motion by the Honorable Ruku because, Madam Speaker, this is really an important issue. Madam Speaker, education is critically important because even from our forefathers when we gained independence, one of the pillars that they were hell-bent on ensuring that they sort out was the issue of fighting ignorance, which is basically providing the population of this country with education. And over the years, Kenyans have proven to be extremely good in academic matters, because if you go all over the world, you find, excuse me, the best scholars are actually Kenyan. And that means basically we have the right people, we have the right breed for purposes education. But Madam Speaker, the government of the Republic of Kenya over the years has continuously, constantly bungled the matters of education. And Madam Speaker, I'm saying this because one of the things that you notice that over the why the changes are occurring. I remember when I was young, there was systems that had existed before, where the education system was such that there would be an exam, I think at standard 3 or grade 3 then, called intermediary, then there would be other exams going forward. I went through a system where we had seven years of primary, system, which is now being scrapped for the new CBC. But Madam Speaker, you notice every time we have these kind of changes, there's investments that are made, was earlier used for pre-technical subjects, art and music and art and crafts, and now they're defunct, they're not being used. So a new system comes in, and we are supposed to now look for laboratories, look for extra classes. So Madam Speaker, I think we need to be very, very careful to ensure that whatever system we come up with, we can live with it for a long, long time. If you go to the developed world, they don't keep changing the education system every 5 or 10 years or after every major election. We must come up with a policy in education that will last for time immemorial, so that if we are going to introduce any changes, they are minor, not major changes that will leave some of our facilities without being used. Madam Speaker, and these subjects require new facilities voided, and some of them had even been brought down. So, Madam Speaker, it's important that the government does a good job. I want to support the idea of the new education system. I think it's a brilliant idea. The CBC education system is very clear, and it's actually emulating some of the developed countries. But, Madam Speaker, as we emulate that, we must ensure that we do proper planning. And planning for education means that we deal with the issue of curriculum, the issue of staffing, and the issue of funding. Madam Speaker, that is where I feel that as a government, as a country, we have failed. Now, CBC started in 2015 with the PP1. 8 years later, we have never put in place plans for ensuring that we have enough have been trained, because even now, what we are churning out of our education, our teacher training institutions, is still the training that is for 844. So it's really, really unfortunate. And Madam Speaker, what happened is that the government, in its knee-jerk responses, decided that we will train the teachers that will be teaching CBC. And the teachers that were taken for this training, which was just basically, in service training for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, was generally for the teachers that were teaching lower primary schools. And Madam Speaker, if the research shows that those teachers that were teaching lower primary schools are mostly the mature lady teachers, female teachers in our rural areas. And when they were taken for training, when they came back, they refused to teach that system and passed it on to the younger generation and told them it is you who can do this training. Unfortunately, that training actually went to waste. And so you find that many of the teachers that are involved, up to now, they don't understand the system. Now, JSS, Madam Speaker, is... Madam Speaker, JSS, we were told that the junior secondary schools would be in secondary. And so every secondary school in Kenya was facilitated to put up a classroom. Madam Speaker, those classes up to now, we have very many questions about them because the funding was totally inadequate, and some of them are like a half of a classroom size. But they were built in secondary schools. Later on, another policy comes where we are supposed to do these schools, or rather these schools are supposed to be domiciled now in the primary section. And then there was a decision of which primary schools are the ones that will be allowed to host JSS. Madam Speaker, in my constituency, it is a shame that my top-performing primary school was not qualified to be able to accommodate JSS. Second, this motion is the learning from where they started in primary, finish grade 6, go to grade 7, 8, and 9 within their primary schools, and all they require is one extra class, and that is in another year and a half. And after that, they require one lab. I am certain that even from the money that we get under CDF, and with a little bit of support from the Ministry of Education, we can be able to make this dream come true. So I want to support, and I want to say that the honorable member thought through properly, and this is something that is worth emulating. That is why the people of Mbeere North have the right leader. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Dorothy Kiara.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this very important motion, and I want to thank the member for Mbere, Honorable Roko, for bringing up this very, very important item for discussion in this House. Honorable Speaker, the Constitution and the government of Kenya is no exceptional, that it is mandated to provide free compulsory education to all students. Honorable Speaker, developing of a policy and funding for junior secondary school is a key component of this very important program that the government has embarked on, because competence-based curriculum is a curriculum. It is very disheartening for us to go around the schools as it stands today when we realize that these schools are poorly equipped. I am so glad, Honorable Speaker, because I know at this point in time, the constituencies have gotten their constituency development fund, and I know those schools. However, I want to acknowledge the fact that all these schools that we are going to build, some of them are in very deplorable condition. And Honorable Speaker, if these students who are transiting from primary school to junior secondary school have to have their esteem, we must ensure that the classrooms are up to the standard of a junior secondary school and the laboratories are properly and well equipped. Honorable Speaker, it is also important to note that the distances, some of the distances that these children are covering are quite huge distances, and therefore I want to implore upon the Ministry of Education to ensure that each and every school has a JSS class. Based on this, Honorable Speaker, the classrooms cannot go without teachers. Teachers also are a key component to this, to take care of JSS, are these old teachers who are picked from primary school class 1. Honorable Speaker, I want to disagree because every trained teacher is deployed. The Teacher Service Commission is very sure that the teacher who is deployed in a certain school will be able to handle that particular class. A teacher might be old, Honorable Speaker, but the brain is not old. So the teachers, whether they are in whatever age enough to handle those classes. What we are calling for, Honorable Speaker, it is equal distribution of these teachers so that in some schools we don't have classes or students sitting in class without teachers of certain disciplines. Honorable Speaker, I also want to challenge the Ministry of Education, because as we sit here today, Honorable Speaker, every day when I look at the news item, the managers of these schools on time. Honorable Speaker, this is a serious setback on the education standards of our children, because our school managers are torn in between the policy that the Ministry of Education has given and the stern warning that they keep giving teachers that don't send any student out of class. I want the Ministry of Education to stand up and be counted, because teachers, and yet every day there are warnings that teachers should not send students out of school. Honorable Speaker, we are in a time where even the parents are, this country is gulping with issues of money, Honorable Speaker, and we don't want to see situations where students are sent back to their parents. Honorable Speaker, I want to support this very important motion because the only way we can be able to handle, the only way we can be able to add this government accountable is ensuring that we develop a policy and funding for the junior secondary school so that it succeeds. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support kudos because this motion is not only touching on Bere, it is touching on the entire Kenya. Thank you, Honorable Madam Speaker.
Honorable Member for Baringo North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this motion on development of our policy and funding framework for our junior secondary schools. Being a teacher for many years, there is need and it is proper as the schools be anchored in law capture the spirit of the junior secondary schools. Madam Speaker, we have a curriculum for junior secondary schools that has not been properly developed. Because at the moment, Madam Speaker, in all our schools throughout the Republic of Kenya, there are one teacher against (13, 13 subjects. And what has been happening is a local arrangement between the primary school teachers who are in that school and that teacher that was employed to actually cover up the syllabus in hook and crook to ensure that in for JSS classrooms, it is therefore evident that there is need to concretize the junior secondary schools in all our primary schools throughout the Republic of Kenya. Madam Speaker, you will realize that from next year, primary will run all the way to class 6. So we have extra 2 schools, those who have been up to standard 8. It means there is need to increase an extra classroom in every primary school to ensure that once the students reach grade 9, they have a space in all our primary schools throughout the Republic of Kenya to capture the 3 classrooms for JSS, because that will be the highest level of JSS is at grade 9. So we need them to be we need to increase the funding. Madam Speaker, the CDF that we have that are in our constituencies, it's not enough to actually fund all the primary schools at once. To rationalize resources and direct more resources to increase and extra class in which was not properly done. And this is why I agree with Ruku that this is the earliest thing is to be done now. There was a plan, they built one which never materialized. It hung in the air. So there is need now, as this one graduate this year to JSS 2 or 8, there is need to plan ahead of time so that whenever they reach grade 9, there is a space for them. Madam Speaker, there is also need, and this country should listen, is that the report should finally be released because it's not only about JSS. The presidential working part on reform of education should finally and fail their official report so that the children of Kenyans are not, and the teachers are not working on casework. Madam Speaker, who are P1, they are now being asked to go for a refresher course in teacher colleges to be able to actually teach CBC curriculum. Madam Speaker, that is good. But there is also need to take the secondary school teachers who are supposed to handle the junior secondary schools for another refresher to be able to handle the CBC curriculum now revert at that level so that